Hey, this is Matthew, and welcome back to Nerd News today, and it's time for another statue review. This time on deck, we're looking at From Diamond Select as part of their DC Gallery Diorama series. We're taking a look at DCeased Batman. This is a very creepy statue of a very beloved character, and well, first things first, what the heck is the story about DCeased Batman? If you don't really know, well, here it is real quick and simple. There is a subset of DC Comics called DCeased. It's essentially kind of like their version of The Walking Dead, except in this case, the zombies aren't the literal Walking Dead. Well, they kind of are. They're essentially byproducts of the anti-life equation, and it gets very DC, long story short. Batman ends up getting infected by this technovirus, and he manages to keep himself alive for quite some time by wearing the suit here that is basically one of Mr. Freeze's cryogenic suits. So it's actually a little bit more interesting than that, and I won't go into too many more details beyond that because in case you want to read it, no spoilers here. But it's a pretty interesting concept, pretty interesting comic, a lot of fun to read, and yeah, I'm actually really excited to get a statue of one of those characters, and especially to get Batman in this very morbid, macabre version. So let's talk about the box real quick because, you know, we're taking this thing right out in a few minutes. So yeah, the box is very small, very compact, and that's really nice because this is a fairly compact statue. The design of all of the Batman DC Gallery diorama pieces have always been in this sort of look here with this gray top. We got the utility belt across the side, the black tights essentially, so always been the same. It's always pretty uniform. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I got this because I was wondering if they were going to maybe make this a little bit different because it is from the DCeased line. So I thought maybe he'd have some maybe red or something. But at the end of the day, it's still a Batman piece, so this is what they've gone with. We have the classic window displays on the front and on each side, of course, and as always, the classic Diamond Select sunroof. And on the back, well, we don't get a bio about Batman or what's going on in the story with Batman directly related to him. What we do get is a quick summary of what the DCeased comic is all about. And it's definitely a little bit more nuanced than what I just told you guys, so it's worth checking out for that. But yeah, not really much about what Batman's story is, and you know, if you're wondering why he's wearing this costume here and you didn't watch this video, you might be a little unsure what's going on. It's a decent summarization of what's going on in the DCeased comic, but if I saw this statue here laying around in maybe a comic store or anywhere else, and I didn't read the comics, I would have no idea why Batman is dressed this way, why Batman's some sort of zombified looking creature, so I would like maybe a sentence or two just explaining that. And it also tells us that this piece was designed by Caesar and sculpted by Alterton. But here on Nerd News today, we don't keep our statues mint in box, and I imagine you probably don't either, so let's go ahead and release our DCeased Batman onto the world, spread the infection, and take a better look at him from all angles. And here is our DCeased Batman statue. And first thing that I actually think about when I see the statue is it reminds me a lot of a Jack Kirby drawing. I think it's just the way the pose is here. It reminds me of like a real classic kind of 60s style Fantastic Four cover. Like, here's the bad guy in the month all hunched over, throwing a giant rock or something at them. I don't know if it's meant to inspire that thought. It's just my first initial thing that I thought about when I looked at this piece here. Other than, of course, this is a zombified Batman trying to eat my face. So let's talk about this thing here, and let's discuss, I guess, likeness first, if you can see that there. This is an interesting looking zombie Bruce Wayne face over here. And it's interesting what they've done with it because, yeah, it's pretty macabre. It's pretty gory in a lot of ways here. It's also got that really cool looking smiley face there. I think there's a really good job of paint on it and a really nice looking sculpting detail. A lot of texture on this piece too, by the way. It's got this really great mad look on his face here. I think that's a very cool looking thing there. You can see on the floor of the statue there's all of these little shards of his helmet. So those basically busted open. And now evil, deceased Batman is running around rampant. It's a pretty cool, pretty interesting looking face. Pretty different from what you normally get also with a Diamond Select statue. It is with statues in general. Because again, yeah, it is a zombified version of Batman. So I think it accomplishes that. Really good paint. I like this kind of shade that's very grim, very undead looking. Works for me. Points for that. It's a pretty frightening looking piece just because of that face alone. And same thing with the pose here too. This pose, again, I talked about how it reminded me of Kirby, but yeah, it's hunched over. He's lurching forward towards someone or something, and whatever's going to happen next is not going to be pretty. So it's a really good pose here, really good use of energy on the base too here. Just nice distribution of weight in this piece here to make him look very ferocious, like he's about to pounce. He's really coming at you, and he's got a mission in mind, and that's to eat your brains. So very good pose, really great sense of anatomy and use of weight distribution here. I can really feel the heaviness of this character leaning forward. I like that a lot about this piece here. Paint job is very clean here, of course, which is always a good thing to hear. And one of the things I like is that there's all this little random blood splatter. I get some on his leg here, on his hand, on this hand, and on his face. And yeah, you can see his mouth is bleeding. That's not his blood, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that is someone else's blood that just came out of his face here. But yeah, so keep in mind, this is like a Mr. Freeze cryo suit that he's wearing. Definitely an older looking kind of cryo suit. But there's some great looking texture on the pants here, on these sort of suspender straps, the metal on the shoulder pads, the gloves, the boots. And of course, can't even do the statue without not talking about Mr. Freeze's pack on his back too. Very nice metallic shades going on there. Good sculpting. Looks a little bit almost like a Rocketeer pack, but that's cool because I like the Rocketeer. I'm fine with that. For those wondering, these pieces over here are kind of somewhere in the middle between being soft and hard. They're kind of like medium hard. They're not the most flexible, but not that rigid that you'd worry about them snapping off. I think they've got just enough give that if this did fall over, you're not going to risk having any damage happen to it. You know, the thing about a statue like this and the pose that he's in, you know, I think I kind of talked to death already about what there is about that piece that I like about it. I think what's more attractive to me about this piece is the use of colors here. It's a very dark, grim-looking piece. That's a word I'm going to be using a lot today if I haven't already done that enough. It's going to be a very dark piece, and you know, this is our only light source is that piece there, and that's pointed down anyway, so it makes no difference. But really, I think the point of this piece is to create a mood more so than to show, you know, how we've seen other pieces where the statues have been very upright or, you know, heroic, or even the bad guys. They've been very heroic and very in your face. I can talk about like maybe a Deathstroke or Bane, any of those two guys. In this case, this is a statue that's meant to be much scarier and evoke more of a horror image. So he's not going to be standing upright. He's in this pose that is unnatural and very much unhuman. And I think that's the key to this deceased Batman statue. Because yeah, they could have just done him lumbering forward, standing up. That would be boring as heck. That's not really Batman. This is a lot more dynamic, and I think this is the most dynamic way to pull off this sort of zombified character and tell a bit of a story here. Because again, we do talk about earlier these broken shards of his helmet here, so he's just broken loose now. He's just now gone stark raving mad, taken over with the anti-life equation. And that's kind of the story of this piece here, is what's about to happen is not going to be pretty, as I said before. And that's what really ultimately makes this more of an interesting piece. Because if you compare this to most other statues, like some of the ones I just mentioned here before, they're all fairly different poses. They're much more upright. Having him hunched over like this, it is a lot scarier, a lot more disturbing, and a lot more different. And that's what makes it stand out. It's a very unnerving statue, I think. I think that's the best word here. That's the word I'm trying to look for. It's a very unnerving statue. With some colors also that I think really set the mood, because it's not just dark and black and, you know, being gloomy for the sake of being gloomy. These are very muted tones, which help the blood pop even more. And even the blood is kind of faded into the fabric a little bit, you could say, because it's not this like bright red like, you know, a Mario Bava film or a Fulci film. No, this is more like it's been around for a little bit, and he's just now been caught in the act, and that's why he's coming forward now. That's why he's coming at you. I like the base a lot too, by the way. The base, it's a fairly simple looking base. It's not really anything to write home about at all, because it is just basically some steel grating, but I like the pattern. It's one of those really nice pieces that, again, this would be so cool just if Diamond separately sold these as bases for your figures, for dioramas or whatever. But yeah, I think it's really good. I like the color as well, because it's this kind of copper color that looks very rusty and very unnatural also. So this is one of those statues that I think is kind of tough to talk about though, because of the pose, because of the color, because of the subject matter. But if we look at it from the stance of it being a horror movie statue kind of thing, and less of it being a comic statue, I think it's very successful in that. This is a piece that's not necessarily going to stand out or pop like a Thor statue or a Deadpool statue. This is one that you want to have with other zombie-looking pieces or other horror items, and I think then it's going to work really well in a collection. It's going to look really good on a shelf with other things that are like it. So I'll say that as my caveat. I think it's a really interesting piece. If you're not really collecting horror stuff, it might not be the best one for you. But if you're into more of the horror stuff, if you're big into the DCeased storyline especially, I think then it's a definite buy. For my money, not necessarily what I would normally collect, but I think it's a really cool piece. I think it's a very unique piece, standout piece, and it's kind of different, and I like that. I like that it's this horror, scary version of Batman. And the difference is what makes me excited about it. Now, I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, because, yeah, this is kind of a departure from the type of statues we normally look at. They usually are much more super heroic. This is a case where, well, this is a scary statue. So, yeah, you guys in the comments, let me know what you think about this deceased Batman. And if you want me to take a look at other deceased statues or even more deceased figures, if those come out, and if those do start to come out, which I think they are. And please consider using our Amazon affiliate link to pick up this deceased Batman. It costs you nothing extra and helps keep this channel alive. Maybe not the best choice of words when we're looking at this piece here today, but you guys get the picture. So that is our deceased Batman from Diamond Select's DC Gallery Diorama series. I think the best way to sum this one up is now for something completely different. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.